Now, what happened is the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the empire was um, when Crassus died. Pompey and Julius Caesar had a civil war. Now, what happened is again the power struggle, and Pompey lost, and Caesar basically won. However, after that, there was the stabbing of the back incident where Brutus went and Caesar's trusted advisor went with the rest of the Senate and murdered him ruthlessly, and so there was complete confusion in the beginning, and then you were introduced to the second triumvirate, which was Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus. Now, Octavian, who also called himself Augustus Caesar later on, was the son of Pompey and Caesar's sister. He had been adopted by Caesar because Caesar's wife was infertile. Mark Antony was a very loyal military genius of Caesar, and you had Lepidus. Um, Now, after the second triumvirate, and them first fighting against Brutus and the senators, and then finally Augustus defeating Mark Antony, Augustus finally reorganized the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was also known as Imperium Romanum, which basically imperium means territory in Latin, and Roman obviously represents the rule of Rome's territory. Um, Now, so Augustus is king, and he has Pax Romana, which literally means peace in Rome. Uh, so far we've covered the three stages. Now we come to the fall of the Roman Empire. So, I mean, we can see so far that it's been a great empire, people are strong, they've established everything. But what happened is there was this guy called Diocletian, okay? And he decides to divide the Roman Empire because at that point the Roman Empire had grown so vast it was not practically feasible to govern all the provinces from the central seat of Rome. Because look at the amount of territory they've covered. They've covered present day Spain, they've Gaul, they've Britain over there, they've Asia Minor, and it's too vast to just, cover from the central seat of power. So they decided to divide it into the Western and the Eastern Empire. The Eastern Empire, which also came to be known as the Byzantium Empire, later Constantinople, which we will come to. Now, both sections were equally known as the Roman Empire. The two halves of the empires actually continued to prosper equally until the reign of Emperor Theodosius the First. This is when external and internal forces exerted themselves to break the two halves apart, and this was actually the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. And when you say fall of the Roman Empire, you mean fall of the Western Empire, because the Eastern Empire lasted for 1,000 more years. So, the first cause was the breaking up of the Eastern and Western Empire. Even though they were divided, they were still unified in some form until Theodosius, who, due to multiple external and internal factors, led to the breaking up of the Eastern and Western Empire. The first of which being the excessive spreading of Christianity. So Theodosius the First wanted to spread Christianity like everywhere, and he wanted to stamp out all the pagan practices that were pre-existing. Then there was corruption of the ruling classes because you had richer people on top. Again, the patricians plebeians thing never really disappeared. Then you have overextension of boundaries. This map is actually really helpful because it shows you how the Roman Empire first kept growing. So you can see the red, it just kept on growing. And then slowly, when you divided it into your eastern and western, I'll just show you. Keep looking at the map. This is still expanding and becoming smaller, and now it gets divided into blue and the green, and then slowly it starts reducing because you've expanded it so much, and there you see the western has fallen. The next is invasion by Germanic tribes. Now, These these people, this weakened the Western Empire a lot. Even though the battles were literally fought by forces from the Eastern Empire, the Western was really not strong, and their borders were the most vulnerable, and that's where they kept getting attacked. And lastly, you had overextension of resources, because I mean, obviously, right? Okay. Now, there are many other problems as well, right? So, you have the trade deficit. Now, trade deficit is basically what happened between the Western and Eastern Empire, where the Western Empire had a major trade deficit with the Eastern. What was happening is these guys basically were taking purchasing goods from the East, but they had nothing to offer in exchange. And now, to make up for the lack of money, the government began producing more coins with less silver content, and this automatically led to inflation. And additionally, you had piracy, where pirates, kept attacking, and especially in majorly the Western Empire, because they were the vulnerable ones in comparison. And then you had again the attacks from the Germanic tribes, who just never stopped. And of course, you had political and military difficulties, because what happened was, um, at that time, political amateurs were in control of Rome in the years leading up to its fall. So it was your army generals that actually dominated the emperorship, and corruption was like everywhere. So what happened is your military transformed more into a mercenary army with no real loyalty to Rome. And as money grew tight because of like the inflation and so on, the government hired cheaper and less reliable Germanic soldiers to fight for Roman armies. So basically, the armies that were defending Rome uh, against the Germanic tribes were basically Germanic people. So that's really the sack of Rome came as no surprise. There was this guy who said that the most ironic, this historian actually, who said that the most ironic thing of all is that during the preceding century, it's almost impossible to identify a single figure who would actually try to cause its demise. All the decisive acts in bringing down the empire were carried out by people attempting to create a better position for themselves within the sorts of imperial structures that had existed in the 4th century. In a famous dictum, Andre Piagnol wrote that Roman civilization did not die a natural death, it was assassinated. Neither alternative seem correct. The Roman Empire was not murdered and nor did it die a natural death. It accidentally committed suicide.